Hi, this is Diane Bald, coming to you from Palm Springs for U.S. Modernist Radio.
Mama don't allow no architecture around here. Mama don't allow no architecture around here. Oh, I don't care what Mama don't allow, gonna draw mine modern anyhow. Mama don't allow no architecture around here.
Welcome to U.S. Modernist Radio, where we talk and laugh with people who enjoy, own, create, dream about, preserve, love, and hate modernist architecture, the most exciting and controversial buildings in the world. Today, we dial into Miami, Florida, home of sun, fun, and some of the most over-the-top new modernism on Earth. Miami lives larger and wilder than our usual Florida destination, the mid-century mecca of Sarasota. On today's show, though, we will visit with one of its premier architects, Kobi Karp. Later on, a few minutes with Frank Harmon reading from his book Native Places. And now, just finishing up his application to the Institute of Classical Architecture and Art, welcome George Smart.
Hi, folks. Those darn classicists. Everything looking like the past. The very old past, like when Zeus was in junior high. I mean, granite and marble and columns. Columns in the front, columns in the lobby, even columns in the bathroom holding the sink up. I have been thinking about joining this very serious classical association just to be invited to their parties as the token modernist.
Really?
Yeah, sure. Why not? The Institute of Classical Architecture and Art is among the forces behind the executive order, not yet signed as of today's show, to mandate classical design in any government building in Washington, D.C., or government buildings costing over $50 million anywhere else in the country. We've had a few classicists on the show, from Justin Shubo to Professor J.S. Curl, and coming soon, David Brissot. Despite our differences of opinion in design, which are many, these guests have been really great to talk to. And to be fair, like sushi or NASCAR, modernism is not for everyone. Support for U.S. Modernist Radio comes from modernist realtor Angela Roll and Nichiha.com/US Modernist.
Beauty, love, durability, designed to last for years to come, bringing you peace and tranquility. You feel relaxed, knowing your house can easily achieve any exterior look and any color. Wood, concrete. Your house loves feeling this good. And you love feeling this good. Nichiha, 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 Nichiha. Say it with me. Nichiha. Advanced engineering. Nichiha, Nichiha. Durability, textures, finishes, and colors. Visit Nichiha.com/US Modernist. Nichiha, Nichiha, Nichiha. That's Nichiha. Wait for it. A look you'll love. Nichiha.
I hate those ads where they give the web address so fast you can barely write it down.
I know, really.
Drives me nuts.
We've solved that problem.
I guess we have.
In the food chain of Miami architects, a chain which features ceviche, plantains, rum, ropa vieja, and Max Strang, one of the most well-known architects is Kobi Karp, who, not surprisingly, is CEO of Kobi Karp Architecture and Interior Design, founded in 1996. Originally from another well-known beach town, Netanya, Israel, he relocated to the Crystal Coast of Minneapolis when he was young. Kobi Karp oversees about 80 employees in his firm. He was educated at the University of Minnesota's Institute of Technology and earned degrees in architecture and environmental design, going on to work on major hospitality and resort projects in the U.S. and the Caribbean. His firm, based in Miami, also has offices in the Middle East, perhaps Netanya, and has won many awards and created many happy clients. His wife must be super happy as well because he recently got rapper flo-Ryda to appear for her birthday.
Oh,
Welcome, Kobi.
Thank you very much for having me. Much appreciated. And yes, my wife loved flo-Ryda, and she did appreciate it very much. Thank you.
Before we get started on design, tell us about this party. This sounds terrific.
It's an interesting story. We did a very contemporary restaurant called Swan in a very cool district in Miami called the Design District, which is renowned for having retail and stores that are cutting edge. And we designed this restaurant for a gentleman by the name of David Grutman.
Okay.
He's with Live Nation now. Live Nation bought into his brand. And basically, flo-Ryda said, I'd love to perform at Nancy's 50th birthday. I said, listen, if you would show up, it would make her evening. And so he was kind enough to do so. He is a true artist. He's very well liked in the community, and he really got the whole place, the whole restaurant up and going. So it was a very special night for everybody.
was it a surprise?
It was a surprise because if you ever meet my wife, she goes back and forth and yes and no and maybe. I don't want to turn 50. And then one day she realized that the clock will keep on going with or without her.
Right.
So she accepted the event and she had a great time with all of her girlfriends there. Yeah, she had a great time.
Now, Kobi, how many husband points did you win from doing this?
Yeah.
Well, my wife runs the Kobi Karp organization, so I really work for her. I'm just, the name on the door. They might actually take the name off, soon. They're peeling it off with a little X-Acto knife. I'm just a pretty face. I'm just the hood ornament. That's all I am.
Well, you're actually a lot more than that, and we're going to get to that in a second. For the people who are listening that have never been to Miami, Kobi, could you tell us a little bit about the major areas? And particularly, I wanted to know how all those little islands got created, because they don't let you make little islands anymore, do they?
No, they do not. The U.S. Army Corps of Engineers was dredging up the Biscayne Bay, which is a natural preserve, and they were dredging it in order to create a deep enough channel that goes north and south all the way to Norfolk, Virginia, that in the event I want to move an airplane carrier or a Navy ship with a deep draft, that ship can travel north and south, protected not only from the hurricanes and the waves of the tropics in the ocean, but also there used to be U-boats out in the Atlantic that would hit the east shoreline of the United States.
During the Second World War.
During the Second World War, yeah, we lost a lot of service and supply ships that nobody really ever talks about until we figured out how to deal with U-boats.
Right.
So
North Carolina has many wrecks off of our coast of U-boats and other ships, too.
And, it went all the way down to Havana, right? Havana to New York and New Jersey, they were all connected. And so this thoroughfare, when you dredge, you have this leftover soil. So just like you do a cake, they put a little metal pan around it and they pump the wet sand in there. And then one day somebody wakes up and says, wow, look at these little aspirin pills. What should we do with them? And somebody smart says, let's put a little road and a little bridge and sell them as luxury little islands to attract people to come and live in South Florida.
When was this?
This was actually in the 30s and in the 20s. There was a gentleman by the name of Flagler, and he brought the train down here to Miami, but nobody wanted to come to Miami. There was no reason to come to this mosquito-ridden destination. There was a deep freeze that came all the way to what's called, by Orlando, it's called Frostline, Florida. He sent the citrus that he was growing south of the frost line, meaning in Dade and Broward County. And
Yes.
he sent them back by train. And that's what really made the whole community up north appreciate that we have an area which is the only subtropical climate in the lower 48, which is the southern tip of Florida.
So these little islands, they were developed over quite a few number of years if it stretched into World War II.
Yes, 1929 until 1939, they were created, and a few homes were put on them by a few wealthy individuals, like the Firestone estate was being built for the Firestone family, Coca-Cola family, and these individuals would come from up north and buy their estates here and live on the bay where they would have their yachts. They can go golfing in Indian Creek. There's a golf course. And you would come and you would play golf on the golf course, or your yacht would be in Belle Harbor. And then you can take your yacht out to the Gulf Stream. And within a very short cruise, you can see on Google Earth, they would go to Havana, because back then we had an inability to procure alcohol in those days.
During Prohibition, right?
Oh, yes, Prohibition. How can we forget? Yeah. They would go to Havana and drink and smoke cigars and gamble, and then come back and go to places like the Surf Club and dance and have weddings and so forth. And princes and the queens of England would come, and later on Winston Churchill would come in the 40s and the 50s. And that's kind of the rich history of the 1920s, 30s, and 40s of Southeast Florida, specifically Dade County. It's when the industrial age, if you will, came to Miami. And those were the days where those little islands were being carved up by dredging for the military needs of the United States of America, which is very close to the seaport and to the Miami International Airport. It's all within 10-minute drive from each other.
Sure. These days, Kobi, what does it take if I want to build a little starter home, say on Fisher Island?
Well, what it takes is that all of our islands were built out of sand on muck. So we build them with little auger cast piles. We don't hammer the piles down because they create too much vibration, but we screw them friction into the ground. And then we go up vertically from there. We build concrete structures here with glass facades. And on Fisher Island, we just finished a couple of buildings which are as contemporary interpretation that would let me get away with. Fisher Island is written into its code to follow the Med Revival original architecture of the 1920s, which was very contemporary in its days with tall bronze and steel glass facades, facing the marina by the Vanderbilt mention. And we took that as inspiration and showed how we take those modern touches and modern feels and put them into the new designs of Palazzo del Sol and Palazzo de Luna, and made them more modern. We made private elevators, air-conditioned garages, and floor-to-ceiling glass. And those were big steps on Fisher Island. And they sold for the highest price per square foot. And they actually arguably raised the value of the whole island neighborhood, which has kind of been stagnating from the 70s, 80s, and 90s.
Well, I understand they're not doing too bad. Isn't it the zip code in the United States that has the highest income?
It is. It's interesting. I just finished a little book by Asulin, and in there I have the Sol and the Luna of Fisher Island. So the sales office calls me up and says, Kobi, you must rush us over these books. I said, why? Why do you want these? They say every buyer, and there's only 40 buyers approximately per building, wants to have one of these books when they buy the units. And I said, well, if that's what they wish, then that's what we will accommodate you. And all of the individuals who bought the units there, the reason they buy the units there or they move from other locations are because of the more modern or the more open feeling, right, of the spaces.
Yes.
Which they so desire, because what happens in the historic Med Revival, not the Vanderbilt mansion, because it has these beautiful bronze and steel glass doors to the outside, but the ones that were built in the 70s and 80s were like Med Revival with a lot of stucco and little punched windows, which make the interior spaces very dark. And they wanted to save some money, so the ceilings are low as well. They're only like 8 feet high. And so you are inside a dark box and disengaged from the natural environment that you so desire to be within, right? That's what you pay top dollar to be, within this beautiful tropical, overlooking the ocean and the bay and seeing the beautiful Magic City skyline, you know. That's what you come here for. And that's what I came here for. I came here for, 1988 from Minneapolis, Minnesota, like you said.
Yeah.
You know, Miami.
You don't get that in Minneapolis, that's for sure.
No, I get Lake Calhoun and the Mississippi River and the grain silos, and I say thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
See you later.
Various TV shows over time have had an impact on Miami. In the 60s, it was the Jackie Gleason show, which made Miami seem very luxurious and avant-garde. In the 80s, it was Miami Vice. And a lot of histories of Miami talk about the impact of those shows on popular culture. Did you experience that too?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll give you a specific example. When I did the Surf Club, which is this 1929 beautiful structure, historic structure, which was a private club that nobody could go into unless they were members, but it was very nicely done and detailed by an architect named Russell Pancoast, who's one of the original architects here. Very strong in Mediterranean revival. In 1929, he built this beautiful structure. So when I came along and I wanted to basically have new glass volumes around and sconce it in glass as you know, the newspaper here said, because I was not complying with the Mediterranean revival continuation that they wanted me to do.
Oh, you were in trouble.
I was in deep doo-doo because I was explaining, in my hearings that I would like to have a clear line of definition between what the original architect did in 1929, which was still very modern and contemporary with large sheets of glass, yet Mediterranean revival, because that was the architecture that was being built, to what it is that I'm proposing, which is glass volumes. And obviously they didn't like it, so they wrote about me that I'm ensconcing the Surf Club in glass, right? But that's not what we were doing. What we were really doing is taking a private club, which nobody was able to enter, and creating a hotel and residences in that location. And by making a hotel, we were able to use the beautiful interior spaces of the historic structure as part of the modern guest room addition, and use the historic structure as an open space for the public to come and have breakfast or coffee. So when you guys come to Miami and you go to the Four Seasons in Surfside at the Surf Club Hotel, anybody can enter it. They can go have lunch, breakfast, dinner, what have you, over there and sit by the beach and see it and enjoy those historic spaces. And you can clearly see where the new glass volumes are there. And that's what, in my opinion, makes it special. The contrast between the original structure and the new structure is what pops it out. And it's not what I think, it's what all the guests and the writings since then have occurred. They all appreciate that, the contradiction and the highlighting and the framing of the historic structure by these modern glass volumes on the ocean.
Was this the project you did with Richard Meyer?
Yeah. Richard and I did a project up the street back in 2008 and 2009 that he brought me onto. And when the market crashed and that project did not go ahead, Richard said, Kobi, if you ever have another project, would you please bring me in? I said, yes. So in 2012, I designed the Surf Club. I got it approved. And in 2013, a year later, I said, let's bring Richard Meyer because he's a staple of American modern architecture. And I'd like to work with him on this. And the developer said, that sounds like a wonderful idea. And that's what we did.
How many buildings are there around the older Surf Club now?
There's a building to the north, which is made of 3 glass sugar cubes, I call them, because the glass is kind of white, right? It's a white glass, so it blends in so that the glass becomes reflective of the sky. So if the sky is gray, or if the sky is white, or if the sky is blue, it kind of reflects that. And then we have a curved building to the south, and that curved building, it curves away from the historic structure, So when you drive north on the road, it's called Collins Avenue, all of a sudden the historic structure is framed and opens up to you so you can clearly see it. And the sugar cubes also are staggered in the same way towards the historic structure, so it kind of frames, kind of like welcoming arms, right? So it gives you that framing of the historic structure. So that's two main buildings, one to the north and one to the south of residences. And then over the Crystal Courtyard where everybody would dance and there was a glass skylight, we floated on top another block of guest rooms right in the middle.
It seems like you spend some time thinking about how the combination of structures will appear as you approach. They all work together in concert. As your eyes move through the area, things reveal themselves.
I think it's critical. Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. Look, I think that the historic structure is important for me. I come from where I respect and I do historic preservation and restoration to buildings, but at the same time, I'm a modernist. I like to build modern architecture. I like to build designs of the time that are relevant of the time, to tell the story of the time. The glass volumes that I have built have glass that meets hurricane impact, turtle glazing, for turtle nesting. Oh. It has insulation values that meet today's criteria and time. And that's the story we have to tell of today's environment and society.
Now, Kobi, I read that you have designed projects, built and unbuilt, that would total about $36 billion. Is that right?
Yeah, a little bit more. Yeah, quite a bit more than that. But
okay,
we have been here in Florida from the 90s, and I came here originally to join a British firm that was building all-inclusive resorts and hotels in the Caribbean. We still do that. We just finished a beautiful resort hotel in Honduras, in Tela, with a Gary Player golf course. We're doing an SLS resort and residences in Hallandale now, which is a very nice district on the water where the Diplomat Union golf course was. And we're doing in Wynwood, which is this kind of an industrial district being converted to work live area. We have residences there, designed in a very modern fashion, yet taken off the DNA of the industrial. It's called Wynwood 25. We're doing a glass office building with projecting glass volumes to reflect back to the scale and size that we have in the Wynwood neighborhood. So we have always had the opportunity to really work on some creative, modern structures here in Miami and the tropics.
And I've been doing some math here, Kobi. So if I take 36 billion, just for a round number, and I divide it by the number of years you've been practicing, and then I divide that by the number of hours in a year, and I work this all through, basically, it's about $7,200 an hour. So Tom and I are going to probably get a big invoice from you after this is all done. You're building a massive complex in Tampa, right?
Yes, Tampa. It's interesting, right? Because I started in Tampa building the La Meridian Hotel in downtown Tampa, which was an old Casota stone courthouse that was built about 100 years ago. And nobody knew what to do with it. So the mayor gave it for $1 to a developer from Virginia. And he said, Kobi, why don't we do a hotel? But the only way I can do a hotel is if you can help me find how I can fit 130 rooms in there, which we were able to do, and really do it in a cost-efficient manner, which is we preserved all the marbles and all the slabs and all the stones in the historic building and kept it into a modern story to tell for La Meridian Hotel. The folks who then came along and did West Shore Marine and Noah Breakstone, they came to me and said, listen, we're doing all these projects here in West Shore, all right, in Tampa, on the bridge to St. Petersburg. What do you think we should do here? And we came up with basically a three-pointed diamond that has three directions coming out of it and created a multifamily residential building that then, as it steps forward, it turns a bit sideways. And then when you step to the next building, it turns just a slight angle. And that allowed for the maximization of the views from all of them. You will then have an opportunity to afford everybody the view, which there became so critical because it was the leftover infill peninsula from the dredging of the marina. And we created a public promenade all the way around the peninsula. So the peninsula became a public walkabout that allows people to then walk through the peninsula and experience it on a daily basis from sunrise to sunset. And the people who live in the buildings have a full access to it along the waterway, which is quite dramatic. So everybody can come to their building, enter a beautiful lobby, and they can come downstairs and go for a walk with their dog, with their boyfriend, with their husband, with their kids. It just becomes a very public space.
So it's a treat for the public as well as great value for the people who wind up living there.
Absolutely.
And this is all going to be available in 2027. It finishes up then, right?
Yes, it is. Yeah, West Shore Marine. It's currently the first tower is under construction, and it's a very unique sales tool to offer maximization of the views of the natural environment there in Tampa.
Now, while you all take a moment to Google our guest, Kobi Karp, that's Kobi Karp, here are some more adventures of modernist realtor Angela Roll.
In our continuing world of make-believe, modernist realtor Angela Roll was raised on a secluded modernist island in the Amazon, populated only by immortal warrior women with impeccable taste. When architect Le Corbusier crashes his plane into this paradise, Princess Diana is too busy teaching a soul cycle class, and she sends Angela to deal with the French bespectacled architect. Le Corbusier, after ranting in French about how Americans have no style,
Mon Dieu,
encourages Angela to leave the all-female sanctuary to enter the cynical world of gabled roofs and men for the first time. Ever since, on a mission to defend modernism, Angela deftly deals with unreasonable sellers, unrealistic buyers, incompetent builders, and slow bureaucrats. While hoping to unlock the potential superpower of modernism the world has yet to fully appreciate. Modernist realtor Angela Roll is your superheroine. Reach her at angelaroll.com. That's spelled ROEHL or 919-995-0550. Yeah, we do a lot of spelling on this show, don't we?
We do spell quite a bit. That's a great audio thing, a service that we provide the public.
Yeah.
We're back with Kobi Karp. I wanted to ask you about designing houses in the area. You've designed a bunch of things. You have a waterfront, I think $38 million home in Biscayne Bay, in Miami Beach. Is that the one that's 12,000 square feet, or is that a different one?
No, that's 12,000 square feet. It sold for about $3,000 a square foot.
Oh.
It's a very modern tropical house with all glass facing the gardens and facing the bay with large shadow boxes, right, with large overhangs of balconies and terraces that allow for the shade and shadow to protect the vertical glass from solar gain. And at the same time, it has beautiful views of the natural preserve, which is the Biscayne Bay, in the foreground. And in the background, it has the skyline of Miami, which is quite nice, the Magic City at night. It's a very nice skyline. And that house is on a private island called Lagos Island. It's an island, yet it's connected to the mainland. So just about anybody can go and visit that house if they want to.
All the islands are connected by some bridge system, right?
Yes, and there's little security gates, but they don't really mean anything because the streets are public, so anybody can go there.
Now, typically, Kobi, do you work with developers and build these houses on spec, or do you have an initial client that is working with you?
Both. That specific house was actually built on spec, and before it was finished, a gentleman came in with his family and just bought it outright, bought it the way it is, with the furniture being set up, and staged and asked everybody to please leave. And so we happily accommodated that gentleman and gave him the code for the front door on the way out. That's it.
Well, that was nice of you.
Yes.
I mean, the scale of this is pretty astonishing because a $38 million spec home is a big wager
Yes.
for a developer. It's huge. But is that typical in Miami?
It's huge, but it was very conservative at that point because that specific island is very well liked and respected. We have done a couple of other modern homes there, and they have been very successful. But that specific lot faces directly towards downtown Miami. And it's like individuals who just want to buy penthouse. You have individuals who just want that 50-yard line view. And you can't digress from that. And when somebody wants that 50-yard line view, and they get to live on a location that they want, because you know what they say, location.
Location, yeah.
And then they get the house that they want. I mean, when they bought the house, the gentleman who was building it, the developer, his name is Tom, he said, Kobi, I'm going to offer the buyer your cell number for anything that they want to change or modify in the house. I said, please do. Yes, it'll be my pleasure. Never heard from them about any changes or modifications.
Wow.
To the exterior of the house. You know, they're changing some closets and some millwork, but nothing of the architecture, layout, and design of the house, which is, you know, it feels good.
Yeah.
As somebody who...
It validates your instincts, I guess.
It validates the thought process and the instinct that we had for these individuals who are ending up. You're right. There's no better compliment. There's no warmer compliment than somebody telling you directly or indirectly, or you're hearing that somebody says, oh, yeah, I like this building. It's a good building. It feels good, or it makes me feel good, or the energy is good, or the view, whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
And it's your design. That is, for me, the highest accolade I can achieve.
Kobi, in a $38 million home, what features become standard? Like, I would assume that you would have to have a media room, for instance, but for that kind of money, what am I going to see when I walk into this 12,000 square foot house? What's going to just grab me besides the incredible location that I've purchased?
So the standards are the same as what is required, because to build a 12,000 square foot house, you don't build a 12,000 square foot house by just taking a 1,200 square foot layout and you know, and make it bigger. That
right.
does not work.
Times 10.
But what we do is it's the orientation of the house on the site. The site is the DNA for the home. The site is how we lay out each and every room on the plan. So in order to maximize the valuation of the site, the interior layouts become so critical. And so the master bedroom relationship to the master bathroom. You know, to walk to the master bathroom, I bring you around to the view, yet the master bathroom from the master bedroom has privacy. So you can go and do what you need to do in privacy, and you don't wake up your partner. You know, if your wife is sleeping there, you don't want to wake her up if you wake up at 5 or 6 a.m. and you want to go watch the sunrise. And the same thing happens is as you walk onto the closets and the mechanical system of the closets so that it keeps your clothes in the humid weather here, for example, nice and dry. Those are the kind of things we have to think about. You know, a bathroom to have light coming in there from the north, which is indirect, is very important. And so glazing becomes so critical for me on this design. And that's what I really have to work with.
How many bedrooms and bathrooms does this house have?
This one specifically has 4 bedrooms upstairs, meaning a master, and 3 bedrooms.
Right.
And then downstairs, there is a guest suite, which has its own little kitchenette. And then there is also a maid's room, which allows for up to 2 occupants in a maid's room and a bathroom, which is very well appointed with their own terrace. So there isn't really a hierarchy of less and more. There is a hierarchy of being in the best location on the site. And the master bedroom obviously takes the best location on the site. And then the other 3 bedrooms also, in this case, face the water. And all the public spaces are basically around the pool and the outdoor spaces. As the sun rises in the east and sets in the west, hopefully on a daily basis, we have an opportunity to get very nice natural light through the front while you're getting up in the morning and having your breakfast or doing your exercise. It is so important to get a flow of the outdoors into your space. And I see that coming back so much more than ever before.
Well, Kobi, I have a practical question for you. Having Googled a lot of these islands and so forth, they're on nice lots, but they're fairly close together. If you live in one of these houses that you've designed, how do you have a party? I mean, where do people park?
That's a very good question. So some of the homes that we do today actually are lifted up to meet flood and wave crest criteria. So you park at the ground level.
Under the house?
Under the house. And under the house, you have also an ability to store your paddle boards and your bicycles and
your
so forth.
toys.
Your toys. And then you also are able to walk upstairs and be in a living space, which is slightly elevated above ground. And it's a Corbusier all over, right, on pilotis, the design of the house on pilotis. Or the Farnsworth house, right, which is glazed in order to enjoy the tropics. Don't forget, we have a very tropical weather here, so that the landscaping can grow vertical in very tight quarters. If I have 5 feet setback or 10-foot setback, I can grow tall flora and fauna, which gives me complete privacy for my neighbor. And if they get 5%, then everybody is quite happy about it. They are appreciative of it. So that is really a key in Miami, because when you get into them, it's a green wall on either side. And that's what's so important.
Well, if I'm going to have a party in my house that's of any size, let's say I have 100 guests come over, in Miami, do they just generally come by Uber or something or get driven? Because I can't see putting 50 cars underneath the house somewhere.
If you have
That's a lot of cars.
Yeah, if you have such a party, we have it organized, and then we have a valet service, and then takes your car and parks it at a lot next door that's vacant or around the corner. Yeah, you cannot encumber your neighbors, right? And it's everything. It's the stacking of the cars. It's the driving, while you're drunk. You need to have the Uber and the Lyft and the valets. And today, when we have parties, in the invite, it says, you come by Uber or you come by Lyft. People do not drive 2 blocks or a mile to a party to park, to have 100 cars there. That's not acceptable.
Well, that's good to know, because when I throw my next party down there, I want to do it right.
I guess I can't drive my F-150 pickup truck right up to the house? Oh,
yes,
man.
You can. No, listen, the F-150, you just need to take your rifle and, lock it away.
Right.
But no, it's the old story, people ask me, Kobi, why do you need running boards on the side of your truck?
Yeah.
And I said, you got to have running boards on the side of your truck, because you can't always pull over. And, so that's where you stand sometimes.
Okay.
And,
yeah.
But honestly and seriously, here in Florida, more so than we have so many trucks and F-150s, and everybody likes to jack them up and have the big tires on them, even the Jeeps, right?
Mm-hmm.
But in reality, you cannot accommodate them on the streets. Even in Broward County or Palm Beach County, you just don't have the space. So when you have an event or a party or even a kid's party, right, when people come to their kids' birthday parties where the inflatables are in the front with the sliding, they always come by Uber or they come in a group, but I've seen them always come by Uber. It's so much easier and so much better.
Or ride a bike. It is flat, right?
If you can ride a bicycle, it is, or the golf carts are being used a lot here by individuals to get around the community and the neighborhood from house to house. They are so popular here. And in Fort Lauderdale, they're so common. We're building now another Four Seasons in Fort Lauderdale, the first one over there. And the whole parking is below grade. so that people can come and walk up from the neighborhood and the community on all four sides. And the car is, interestingly, becoming relegated to the side, kind of like the horse and buggy were for a while, and then they completely disappeared. It's interesting how that thought process, people used to ask me, please give me a glass garage with lifts in there so I can exhibit my 6 cars. But now it's like nobody is desiring to promote that. The thought process of the program has completely been changed.
Well, Kobi, thank you so much for spending time with us today. This has been fascinating.
Yeah.
I've learned a lot about Miami and design, and I want to encourage people to go to your website and look at all the great buildings you've been putting together and what you've got on the boards as well for the next 4 or 5 years. Thank you so much.
I want to see those sugar cubes.
Yeah.
I thank you so much. Please just pick up asulin.com, go to Kobi Karp, and you can have those books. And I thank you so much for your time. It's very nice.
And now a few minutes with Frank Harmon, reading from his book, Native Places.
My family were small farmers in the mountains of East Tennessee. For them, everything had its place. Barns and churches on the hillside, crops in the bottomland, cows and sheep grazing on the hills. They planted corn in the spring and killed a hog in the fall. My great-aunt Cora canned beans and tomatoes, churned buttermilk, and baked cornbread every day. Being a city boy, I'd never seen such richness. I chased butterflies by day and moths at night. The loudest sounds were thunder and trains passing by in the next valley. To me, it seemed they lived in harmony with their place. I think about my grandparents now that I've been living in isolation for more than 2 months. In a world that's gotten almost completely out of hand, I live a slow life, as they did. I don't leave home. I bake my own bread. I see monarch butterflies passing by on their way to Maine. And at night, I hear the trains whistle from miles away because the streets are empty. Sometimes the greatest comfort is to know our own place.
Thanks for listening. U.S. Modernist Radio is underwritten by Angela Roll, your special real estate agent for modernist houses, and by Nichiha.com/US Modernist. Okay, Tom, take us out.
Visit usmodernist.org's massive archives to listen to past shows, discover documentation of 7,500 significant modernist houses, and access 3 million pages of classic 20th century architecture magazines. U.S. Modernist Radio is produced by Soundtracks Recording Studios in Raleigh, North Carolina. Our theme song was performed by George Smart and Robinson Earl. Carrie Cesarino researches guests while juggling 2 children, a bowling ball, a chainsaw, a jar of salsa. Oh, no, that's salsa dancing with her husband, Adam. I'll get it right one of these days.
Yeah.
U.S. Modernist Radio is a production of Modernist Archive, a nonprofit educational archive for the documentation, preservation, and promotion of modernist residential design. I'm Tom Guile. George and I'll be back soon with another sunny, breezy, upscale, pastel-colored, luxurious beach edition of U.S. Modernist Radio.